In the hot summer of 2007, Houston streets felt heavy with heat. That July night, a young Mexican-American nurse named Sophia Patel finished her long hospital shift. She was only 28 years old, full of dreams, and loved by her patients. Sophia waved goodbye to her friends, walked into the dark parking lot, and unlocked her small silver Honda. She started the engine and drove off into the night. But Sophia never made it home. When the clock ticked past midnight, her parents sat waiting in their living room. Her mother kept looking at the door, whispering, "She will walk in soon." Her father dialed her cell phone again and again. No answer. Minutes turned into hours. By morning, fear filled their hearts. Sophia had vanished, and nobody knew why. The family called the police, their voices shaking. Officers checked nearby roads, hospitals and highways, but found nothing. No car, no trace. It was as if Sophia had disappeared into thin air. From that day forward, one painful question echoed across Houston. Where did Sophia go? The news spread quickly. Flyers with Sophia's smiling photo covered telephone poles, gas stations, and corner stores. Neighbors knocked on doors asking if anyone had seen her. Local churches lit candles, and Spanish radio stations begged listeners to share tips. At the market, people stopped strangers, showing them Sophia's picture. "Please, help us bring her home," they pleaded. Some thought she had been in an accident. Others feared someone had taken her. Whispers grew louder and rumors swirled. The police interviewed Sophia's friends, co-workers, and even her family. Her father was questioned again and again, but nothing pointed to him. Every answer ended with the same silence. Weeks passed, then months. The city grew busy with other problems, but Sophia's family could not move on. Her bedroom stayed the same, with her favorite books on the shelf and a framed graduation photo on the desk. Each night, her mother placed a small candle by the window, hoping her daughter would see the light and find her way back home. Still, no one came. As months turned into years, the case turned cold. Police had no new leads, and Sophia's file sat quietly in a drawer. For most of the city, her name faded into memory. But inside her family's home, her presence never left. Her father built a small shrine in the living room. On it stood Sophia's photo, a vase of flowers, and her nurse's ID badge. Her mother prayed every night, whispering through tears, "If I cannot see her again, God, at least show me the truth." Sophia's younger brother, Daniel, was only 10 when she vanished. He grew up with an empty chair at the dinner table and no big sister to guide him. At school, when friends talked about their sisters, Daniel stayed quiet, hiding the pain inside. Birthdays passed in silence. Holidays felt broken, but hope never fully died. The family held on, waiting for the day someone would open that file again and finally answer the question that haunted them for so long. Where is Sophia? Every evening, Sophia's mother lit the same small candle by the window. Neighbors passing by often saw its gentle glow and whispered, "She is still waiting." Some would stop to pray quietly outside. Others left flowers on the doorstep. Inside the house, the family spoke of Sophia as if she was still alive. Her clothes hung neatly in her closet. Her shoes lined up by the door. Her favorite cup stayed in the kitchen cabinet, untouched. Years rolled on, but the pain did not fade. Her father aged quickly, his back bent from carrying so much grief. Her mother's hair turned white, yet her voice never stopped praying. And Daniel, her younger brother, grew from a boy into a man. But his heart carried an emptiness no one could fill. Though the world had moved forward, the Patel family's life was frozen on that July night in 2007. At the Houston Police Department, Sophia's case sat in a drawer labeled Unsolved. It was just one file among hundreds of other missing persons. Detectives came and went, new cases pushed forward, old ones pushed back. Sometimes an officer would glance at her photo paper clipped to the file, a young nurse with a bright smile. Then the file would be closed again. 15 years later, the case seemed buried under dust, but cold cases never really die. They wait, silent and patient, for the right eyes to open them again. And in 2022, something finally stirred. In June 2022, a group of volunteer divers called Search and Recover Texas arrived in Houston. They were known for helping families find missing loved ones by searching rivers, lakes, and canals with sonar equipment. Led by a former Navy diver, the team decided to scan Buffalo Bayou, a dark canal running through the city. For years, families had begged police to check it more carefully. The divers lowered their sonar machine into the water. On the screen, shapes began to appear, shadows of old cars buried under mud. One shape caught their attention, a small sedan, the same size as Sophia's silver Honda. Could it be hers? The divers worked carefully. Cables were lowered, hooked under the frame, and slowly pulled. Mud bubbled, water churned, and bit by bit, a rusted silver car rose from the bayou. Reporters rushed to the scene. Neighbors gathered by the canal, whispering prayers. Everyone wanted to know, is this Sophia's car? The license plate, once covered in algae, was scrubbed clean. The numbers matched Sophia Patel's missing vehicle from 2007. The crowd gasped. Some cried. After 15 long years, Sophia's car had been found. Police carefully opened the car doors. Inside, the seats were torn, soaked with years of mud and water. But among the wreckage lay a few haunting items: a nurse's badge with the name Sophia Patel, a single white shoe stained but still intact, and in the back seat, human bone fragments. The officers froze. This was no longer just a missing persons case. This was a crime scene. That night, the Patel family received a knock at their door. When they heard the words, "We found her car," their world collapsed once again. The moment police confirmed the news, Sophia's father sat silently on the sofa, staring at nothing. His lips trembled, but no words came. Her mother fell to her knees, clutching her rosary. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "My daughter has finally been found." Daniel, now 25, broke down. He pressed his hands over his face and cried, like the 10-year-old boy he once was when she vanished. "She was there all this time," he whispered. The house filled with sobs, prayers, and silence. When the news spread, Houston's Mexican-American community mourned as one. Neighbors gathered at the Patel home with flowers, candles, and food. Reporters filled the street. Spanish radio stations replayed Sophia's story, reminding everyone of the young nurse who had once cared for their families. Churches held vigils, bells rang, and prayers echoed through the night. But behind the grief, a question burned. Who put Sophia in that canal? The answer, people believed, would shock the entire city. With the car recovered, the Houston Police Department had no choice but to reopen Sophia's case. Detectives dusted off the old file, spread photos and witness statements across the table, and began again. DNA testing was ordered on the bone fragments. Modern technology, far more advanced than in 2007, promised answers. 2 detectives were assigned: Detective Maria Torres, sharp-eyed and relentless, and Detective James Holloway, a veteran who had solved many tough cases. Together they vowed, "This time Sophia will not be forgotten. We will find the truth." As Detective Torres reread old witness notes, one detail stood out. A security guard from the hospital had once mentioned seeing a red pickup truck following Sophia's car on the night she disappeared. Back then, it seemed too small a clue to chase. But now, with Sophia's car found in the bayou, that memory felt different. "Someone followed her that night," Torres said firmly, "and someone made sure she never came home." The hunt for Sophia's killer had begun. Detective Torres gathered the Patel family in their living room. She spoke gently, but her words were strong. "Your daughter was loved. She was a nurse, a sister, a daughter. She deserves justice. I promise we will not stop until we know what happened." Sophia's mother nodded with teary eyes, holding her rosary close. Her father gripped Torres's hand, whispering, "Please, don't let her be forgotten again." Daniel, standing tall though his voice shook, said, "I just want to know who did this to my sister. That's all I've wanted since I was 10. Torres looked at him and said, "We will find them." Back at the police lab, forensic experts studied the mud-soaked Honda. They searched every inch of the car. In the glove compartment, they found a crumpled receipt from a gas station. It was dated July 20th, 2007, just minutes before Sophia disappeared. On the seatbelt buckle, faint traces of skin cells were found. Technology in 2007 could not read them, but in 2022 DNA machines could. The evidence was sealed and rushed to the lab. Detectives waited anxiously for results that could point to a suspect after 15 long years. The DNA test results came back. They matched a man who had been arrested years earlier for assault but never jailed long-term. His name, Carlos Mendez. Mendez once worked near the hospital Sophia left that night. He also drove a red pickup truck, just like the witness had described. Detective Holloway slammed his notebook shut. "This is no coincidence. We need to find him." For the first time in 15 years, the case had a real lead. Detectives drove through old neighborhoods, showing Carlos Mendez's photo to residents. Many shook their heads, but some remembered. "Yes," one elderly man said. "I used to see him at the corner store. He always had that red truck." Another neighbor added, "He moved away years ago, but he had a temper. Nobody liked him." Piece by piece, the picture grew clearer. Mendez had been close to the area the night Sophia vanished, and he had vanished from Houston not long after. When the Patel family heard the name, their emotions twisted. Hope and fear mixed together. "Could this really be the man?" Daniel asked, pacing the living room. Her father clenched his fists. "If he did this, he robbed us of 15 years with my daughter." Her mother whispered through tears, "Justice, Lord, please, justice." The family, once stuck in silence, now felt the first sign of answers. But the truth could bring even more pain than the questions. Detectives traced Mendez's old red pickup truck through DMV records. The truck had been sold years ago, but police tracked it down in a junkyard outside Dallas. The vehicle was rusted, almost forgotten. Yet inside, investigators found carpet fibers and tiny bloodstains under the seat. The DNA matched Sophia Patel. Torres looked at Holloway and said, "This is it. He was in that truck. He never planned for this to be found." The case was tightening. With DNA evidence from both Sophia's car and the red pickup, detectives had enough to act. A judge signed an arrest warrant for Carlos Mendez. Police learned he was living quietly in San Antonio, working odd jobs under a different name. He thought the world had forgotten Sophia. He thought he was safe. But that knock on his door would prove otherwise. On a hot morning, police surrounded a small house in San Antonio. Neighbors peeked from windows as officers shouted, "Carlos Mendez, come out!" Mendez opened the door, his face pale. He knew why they were there. He was handcuffed and led away as cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions, but Mendez kept his head down. The Patel family received the call they had waited 15 years to hear. An arrest has been made. Tears filled their eyes. For the first time, they felt the weight of truth drawing near. The moment Carlos Mendez was arrested, the story broke across Houston. TV anchors spoke his name. Headlines read, "2007, Cold Case Breaks Open." Radio stations repeated every detail. Neighbors who once handed out flyers for Sophia stopped in shock. Some cried, remembering the young nurse who vanished. People gathered outside the Patel home again, leaving flowers, candles, and messages of support. Sophia's mother held Daniel close and whispered, "The world remembers her again." At the police station, detectives sat across from Mendez. His hands were cuffed, and his face showed no guilt. Detective Torres slid Sophia's photo across the table. She was only 28, a nurse, a daughter. Why did you follow her? Mendez stayed silent, his eyes fixed on the table. Detective Holloway leaned forward. "We have your DNA. We found her in your truck. The truth is here, Carlos." But Mendez only smirked and whispered, "You can't prove everything." Police invited the Patel family to view the evidence. They saw Sophia's shoe, her nurse's badge, and photos of the rusted Honda. Tears filled their eyes. Daniel touched the badge gently. This was hers. I remember when she wore it to her first day at the hospital. Her father's hands shook. Now we know she didn't just vanish. Someone took her from us. Painful as it was, the family finally knew Sophia had not simply disappeared. She had been harmed. Weeks later, Mendez stood in court for the first time. The Patel family sat quietly in the front row, holding hands tightly. Reporters filled the back, pens ready. The judge read the charges: kidnapping, murder, and concealment. When asked if he understood, Mendez nodded. His voice was cold. Yes. The courtroom air grew heavy. For the Patel family, every word cut deep. But justice was finally moving forward. Detectives dug deeper into Mendez's past. They discovered he had a history of violence. Years earlier, women had reported him for stalking, but nothing ever stuck. Former co-workers said he was angry, short-tempered, and obsessed with nurses. One even remembered him saying, "They think they're so good, but one day someone will show them." The picture was becoming clear. Mendez hadn't just followed Sophia by chance. He had chosen her. The city buzzed as the trial date was set. People whispered about it at work, in markets and at church. For many, Sophia's story had been a scar on the community. Now it was opening again, but this time justice was possible. The Patel family prepared themselves for the painful road ahead. Daniel told reporters softly, "We will stand in that courtroom for Sophia. We will not leave her alone again." At a pre-trial hearing, Sophia's parents were asked to speak. Her mother's voice trembled as she said, "My daughter wanted to help people. She worked nights to care for the sick, and this man took her from us." Her father added, "For 15 years I lit a candle every night. I prayed for her return. Today, I pray for truth." The courtroom went silent. Even strangers wiped tears from their eyes. By now, Sophia's case was on every TV in Houston. People who never knew her followed the story, hearts heavy for the Patel family. The young nurse became a symbol of love, loss, and hope for justice. In classrooms, teachers spoke about her. In churches, prayers were said in her name. One neighbor summed it up best: "We all lost Sophia, but if justice is served, maybe we all find a little peace too." The trial began on a gray morning. Crowds gathered outside the courthouse, holding candles and signs with Sophia's photo. Inside, the Patel family sat together in the front row. Daniel squeezed his mother's hand, whispering, "We're here for her." The prosecutor stood tall and spoke. "This case is about a young nurse who cared for her community and was taken too soon. For 15 years her family waited. Today, they deserve justice." All eyes turned to Carlos Mendez. He sat stiff, avoiding everyone's gaze. The courtroom grew quiet as photos of Sophia's car were displayed on a large screen. The jury saw the rusted Honda pulled from the bayou. They saw the mud-stained nurse's badge. They saw the single white shoe. Gasps filled the room. Sophia's mother wept softly. Daniel looked away, tears in his eyes. The prosecutor said firmly, "These items prove she didn't vanish. Someone put her car there, and we know who that someone was." Forensic experts took the stand. They explained how DNA found in Sophia's car and in Mendez's red truck matched only one person, Carlos Mendez. Charts were shown, numbers displayed. But the meaning was simple. Science had caught him. One juror whispered, "That's proof." Detective Torres nodded to the Patel family from her seat, silently promising, "The truth is winning." Mendez's lawyer argued back. He claimed the DNA was old and could have been mixed up. He suggested maybe Sophia had given Mendez a ride one time and that's why his DNA was there. But the jury looked doubtful. The prosecutor reminded them, why would her car end up in a canal if this was just a ride? Why would her remains be inside? The lies were falling apart. When Daniel took the stand, the courtroom went silent. He spoke of being 10 years old when his sister vanished, how he grew up without her laughter, how every holiday felt empty. His voice cracked as he said, "I never got to say goodbye to my sister. For 15 years I prayed for her return. Today I just want the truth." Many in the jury wiped tears. Even the judge looked down, moved. Sophia's mother also spoke. She held her rosary tightly and said softly, "For years I asked God only one thing, to know where my daughter was. Now I know. But I also ask for justice, not just for her, but for every mother who waits for a missing child." Her words filled the courtroom with heavy silence. Reporters scribbled quickly, knowing this moment would stay in people's hearts forever. In closing arguments, the prosecutor's voice rose with passion. 15 years ago, this man followed a nurse after her shift. He ended her life, hid her car, and thought he would never be caught. But today, the truth stands before us. Sophia Patel deserves justice. Her family deserves peace. You must deliver it. The jury listened closely, faces set with focus. The Patel family sat in silence as the jury left to decide. Minutes felt like hours. Each tick of the clock echoed in the room. Daniel whispered to his father, "Do you think they'll find him guilty?" His father, voice low, said, "We have waited 15 years. Tonight, we will know." Outside, crowds held candles, chanting Sophia's name. The whole city was waiting with them. Sophia's bedroom stayed the same, even after 15 years. Her book sat neatly on the shelf. A small photo of her graduating as a nurse still stood on her desk. Her mother finally opened the door after the trial, tears in her eyes. She whispered, "My sweet girl, justice has come." The family did not pack her things away. They chose to keep the room as a reminder, not of loss, but of love. Daniel stood at his sister's grave once more. He placed a stethoscope on the stone, a gift to honor her dream of nursing. "I'm going to become a doctor," he whispered. "You helped people. Now I will too. Every life I save will be because of you." The wind rustled softly through the trees, as if Sophia's spirit was listening. Sophia's father spoke at a community event weeks later. His voice was calm but powerful. "For years I felt weak. I thought I failed as a father. But today I tell every parent, never give up, never stop searching, because truth always finds a way." The crowd clapped, many wiping their eyes. His pain had become strength for others. Sophia's mother began leading prayer groups for families of the missing. She told them, "I waited 15 years. I cried every night. But I never lost hope, and neither should you." Her faith, once broken, now lifted others. People hugged her, whispering thanks for reminding them not to stop believing. Houston police announced a new program to reopen cold cases with modern tools. "Sophia's case taught us we can't give up," one officer said. Her story inspired changes in law, training, and community action. Across the city, her name became linked with hope, not just tragedy. At Houston Methodist Hospital, where Sophia once worked, a plaque was placed in her honor. It read, "In memory of Sophia Patel, a nurse who cared for the sick and whose light still guides us." Doctors and nurses paused at it each day, remembering the colleague they lost too soon. Every year on July 20th, the Patel family lit candles at their window. Neighbors joined in, lining the street with lights. Daniel stood outside, watching the glow spread. "She's not gone," he whispered. "She lives in every flame, in every heart that remembers." Sophia's light, once hidden in darkness, now shone across the city. The story of Sophia Patel was no longer just about tragedy. It became a lesson in love, patience, and the power of never giving up. Her family had waited 15 years. They had cried, prayed, and carried pain. But in the end, they found truth. As her mother said at her grave, voice trembling with both sorrow and peace, "My daughter, you were taken from us, but you will never be forgotten. Your name lives forever." And with those words, Houston closed one of its most painful chapters, but kept Sophia's memory burning bright for generations to come.